Yo, what is good, my anime people? What is good, yo? If you were watching my last video, I truly apologize for any noise that you heard in the background. If you did watch it all the way to the end, I truly appreciate ya. But yeah, a whole bunch of trucks just chose to drive by at the very end of my video, so if it happens again, I truly do apologize in this video. But let's get right into it. Fire Force and Dr. Stone have been absolutely fire, and to think that Dr. Stone kind of, I don't know, I wanted to talk about Dr. Stone soon, but Fire Force blew my mind. Not to mention there's some things I want to talk about Soul Eater related. So this show right here, Fire Force, has just given me pretty much all the things I needed to see to understand just what type of Soul Eater stuff we might be seeing in here. So they've already shown us a couple of versions of characters that are kind of like mixed in with each other, almost as if you took some characters and made them have kids, some of their generational kids would be here. Even though one of them is literally a spitting image of two characters kind of formed together, um, that was really throwing me off this week. It was so hard not to just focus on character designs, little nods. I mean, at the very beginning, we literally see Lord Death's face as their emblem for death, like their skeleton for death is Lord Death from Soul Eater. So what they're pretty much implying is he's the Grim Reaper maybe of this world, right? Like that's so crazy. But the other thing that's kind of mind-boggling about all of this is the fact that as soon as we see all of these people, um, as soon as we see all these people pretty much show up in the case of like the burning of their bodies, their you know imploding and catching on fire and stuff like that, we then get to understand that whatever kind of transpires from these situations, no one understands why they're happening, right? It's just happening. You're just simultaneously combusting, and that's it. But also seeing how I really hope this season isn't like 12 episode, 13 episode, but I feel like this episode was our true eyes on, like, looking in to see just what the heck's going on. And why I say that, because we finally see someone that seemingly has something to do with all the things that have been happening, right? Because we have that, it feels like we can actually put a face or some type of understanding behind why these things happen, including if it's actually being forced by somebody instead of it just being at 100% random, right? So that's kind of where I started to see things, changing automatically when they show this guy who is pretty much messing with this black dust looking powder. It looks like gunpowder or something along those lines. And because he's doing this, it draws the narrative that he's the one who can literally make this happen. Not only make it happen, but for some reason this week's episode, our main fire guy who has changed, this father, he isn't like aggressive. He isn't attacking. He isn't, evil or anything like that. So all of a sudden, not only can we see not only can we see people actually fight these flames, but we can also predict that whenever they're in these modes, sometimes a lot of the people just give in, right? They just, once it happens, they might not even have a chance to be able to say, "Oh yeah, I was in control," or "Oh yeah, I don't want to do that," So it then draws this narrative that maybe the reason why it was like that was because of this man outside was forcing the process to go, even though it already would have been much slower than it would have been, maybe. I'm not sure. There's a lot that is happening in this show, and I feel like they are just dancing around it, which is fine by me, including if they're going to go for a longer series and stuff. So if they're gonna draw this thing out and not be like a 12 episode thing, or if they're gonna do a season and then they already have another season in the bag, I can understand why they're dancing around it. But after all this was said and done, and the guy who, if you guys watch Soul Eater, this guy looks exactly like Hero from the filler. With, well, I guess it wasn't really filler because Excalibur was actually a thing, like throughout the whole entire show. So, the guy who actually tames Excalibur and starts controlling him in the school, mixed with Justin, the guillotine, uh, Grim Reaper weapon. Like they are his spitting like ancestors, and not only that, he goes in the perfect category in between them. He wants to be a king, a night king. Like Hero wanted to be everybody's hero, and then the Justin guy was so into, praising his lord and stuff like that. It's almost as if now he's grown up to the point, or not grown up, but when he was a kid, he actually wanted to be the king instead of having someone else be the king. So I don't know. It's funny for me to see these characters like this. Like it almost looks like just this is our way of seeing Justin grow up, and maybe instead of just using Excalibur the whole time, he gets an guillotine execution thing. You know what I mean? It's really weird. It's awesome and weird, and I love the direction that the character designs are going. Not only that, I don't think there was really in Soul Eater a case where there's people who just see each other and fight on sight. So I think that's a dynamic that he wanted to have in maybe Soul Eater, and it just didn't work out with the characters he's already built and had maintained, or it was just something he just didn't really need in his show slash manga. And now in this new one, he got to make that relationship a thing, and it's like right in our face. It's not something that it's gonna happen randomly. It's gonna happen when he leaves the play. No, this guy is literally underneath him at all times. He's right there in his face, and he has to deal with them, right? So that should be interesting. It was pretty cool to have an episode where the main character doesn't do anything in the grand scheme of fighting, in the grand scheme of saving lives, but he still learns as much, if not more, through this day and everything that's happened, right? So I love that aspect of being able to tell me what I need to learn, or what is the growth from this episode, or what is anything the characters learn, and if they did, where is it? Is it shown in my face? Am I supposed to think about it, or is it going to be more prevalent in the further episodes? And this one right here hit very quickly. For our Excalibur wielder and our Type 7 axe wielder with an axe with spikes that you can shoot out of it, um, they both are stupid, and they brought out the one thing their leader told them not to do, their captain said not to do. They did it, and he pulled him to the side, and I think that would probably be the first time we've ever seen him semi-mad. And then the next time we see him actually mad, the captain, is when he is seeing the whole entire place collapse. Mind you, um, the event, everything was already over. They already had taken out a man who pretty much couldn't even defend himself. Like, he didn't want to defend himself. He pretty much just wanted to die. And then after doing all this, the place then starts getting attacked practically. They could tell it was an outside source pretty much. And then next thing you know, that's what they got to deal with. It's pretty crazy to see how much popped off this like early on. But it also makes a lot of sense seeing how all these shows have only really begun to tell us anything important, right? So with them telling us now that there's someone out there who literally sees this as a joke, right? This man said, "Oh man, this was a tiny little joke, and you guys, something in the special forces is taken. It's like being a little bit too serious or something along those lines." But I honestly love the fact that there's these generational gaps, right? And the best part is there was a generation that actually saved our main character, and we have heard nothing of it. Generation, Actually, I guess we have, but at the same time we haven't. In the case of like, who the heck started this place? Why did they start it? Or when they started it, who was all on the teams and stuff like that? Because we see this old man who has like like he got scarred up on his eye. Either it's there because of the recent actions of our main character losing his family, or it's already been there and that was just a character design choice or whatever. So to see that and to know that um, there were there's these fighters before, and we just have no real recollection of what they're doing now or if they're even alive, right? So it's getting really, really interesting. The guy who pretty much started it all, like, just go look at all of the villains and go look at, like, just a lot of character designs in Soul Eater, and you'll understand why I felt the way I did every time I saw some of these characters. If you haven't watched Soul Eater, it's not gonna, like, change. I feel like your perspective on the show and be like, oh, this show's just copying Soul Eater. No, there's nothing like that. It's just the simple fact that it's if okay, so for instance, there's two people who have made ginormous shows, but when they make other characters, they look so similar to their old ones that it's just like a natural drawing response, right? So there's the guy who made Naruto, he made Boruto, right? Then everybody looked practically the same as their fathers and mothers and stuff. But then he goes and makes Samurai 8, and there's still some characters that you can draw similarities to, even though it hasn't got an animation yet. So the other show is oh my god, I had it on the tip of my tongue. But you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like there's shows. Naruto and uh, crap. Oh, Fairy Tail. This guy who made Fairy Tail literally goes on to make a new show, and the show has practically a Natsu gray, a not gray not gray Sue. It had a gray Sue in it, and that was weird to me. Like he literally was just gray and Natsu mixed together. Then you had a cat. Then you had a girl that was traveling, trying to learn about the things, and he teams up with those two, right? So there's things where they draw similarities to their old stories. Sometimes the old stuff just sticks so well that then you could elaborate further out afterwards. But with this show, I don't feel that type of um, grind or push to be like, oh yeah, we're doing this simply because we feel the need to slowly make this show feel like another show that I've already written. And I appreciate that it's not. So, Fire Force definitely killing it with another amazing episode. I actually really like this preppy guy. He's really cool, actually. Because of his change, his demeanor went from, you know what, I'm going to, you know, be all prideful and stuff to, do I even think about, what this guy just taught me in the case of the survivors? Do I ever think about them? And now that I am thinking about them, I should be more considerate and stuff like that. That was just off the first time we've ever met him. So it can only get better from here. I hope. I hope. I'm not gonna say it has to get better because we've seen these instances of it getting worse, right? So we'll definitely keep an eye on him. But overall, this show is amazing. If you aren't watching it, you're definitely missing out, and I highly recommend you invest some time into getting into it. You got 2 episodes now, so it can only get hopefully a lot more better from here. So with all that being said, my anime people, I will talk to you very soon for another video. With that, peace.